The planet Leora had always been a quiet world. Its people lived simple lives, far from the busy centers of the galaxy. They did not have strong armies or powerful fleets. Their cities were small, peaceful, and filled with light-colored stone buildings that glowed softly at night. For generations, the Leorans believed that peace was their nature, and that no one in the galaxy would ever have a reason to harm them. They were wrong. Everything changed the day the Karos arrived. No one on Leora had seen anything like them before. Their ships were dark, sharp, shaped like claws. They came without warning, without sending any message or reason. They appeared in the sky like a storm that had come out of nowhere. The first city fell in only a few hours. The Leorans tried to talk. They tried to make peace. They sent signals, words, and pleas. The Karos did not reply. They simply advanced, destroying buildings, taking resources, and forcing people to run. For the first time in their history, the Leorans felt true fear. Elder Sereth, one of the oldest members of the Leoran Council, watched the chaos from the window of the council tower. His skin, normally a calm shade of blue, had turned pale from stress. Behind him, the council room was filled with worried voices. Everyone spoke at once. Their words filled with fear and confusion. "We cannot fight them," said Islan, one of the younger council members. "Our weapons are too simple." "They are not here for peace," said another. "They want our land. They want everything." "Then we must run," someone else said. Sereth turned around and looked at all of them. He felt heavy inside. These were people he had known all his life. And now they were all lost, scared, and unsure of what to do. Running was not possible. There were too many citizens and too few ships. And even if they ran, where would they go? No world wanted refugees. And no empire wanted to take responsibility for a weak species. Leora would fall. They all knew it. Still, Sereth spoke. "We send a plea." Everyone turned toward him. "To whom?" Islan asked. "The galaxy does not care about us. It has ignored us for years." "Then we hope someone is listening," Sereth said. "Anyone." The room fell silent. It was a desperate plan, but it was the only plan. So the council voted, and the message was prepared. It was simple, honest, and filled with fear. "This is Leora. We are under attack. We need help, please." The message was sent into the void of space, spreading far beyond their small corner of the galaxy. The Leorans waited, hoping for a miracle. Days passed, then weeks. During this time, the Karos slowly moved across the planet. City by city, they advanced like a wave. People hid in caves, forests, basements, and tunnels. The council worked day and night trying to help survivors, but they could not save everyone. Sereth tried to stay strong, but even he felt the weight of hopelessness. Every morning he woke, expecting to hear that the Karos had reached the capital. Every night he listened to the distant rumble of destruction. Many Leorans stopped believing in rescue. Children cried at night. Adults whispered about accepting their fate. The council continued to broadcast their plea into the galaxy. But responses never came, or so they thought. One evening, when the sky was a deep purple and the sun had almost set, the communication tower began to shake. The lights on the receiver blinked rapidly, faster than Sereth had ever seen. "Something is connecting," said a young technician with wide eyes. "Is it the Karos?" Someone whispered. "No," the technician replied. "This is a different frequency, and the signal is strong." Everyone in the control room stared at the main screen. Static filled the air, crackling softly like gentle rain. Then the static began to clear. A voice broke through. "This is Captain Laura King of the exploration vessel Horizon Reach. We received your distress call. We are coming." The room went silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Sereth felt his heart stop for a moment. He looked at the screen, but the message was only audio. Still, the voice sounded warm, steady, and full of certainty. It was the voice of someone who believed they could help, a voice from humanity. The Leorans knew stories about humans. Some called them Deathworlders. Others said they were too bold. too reckless, too strange. But most stories agreed on one thing. Humans were dangerous. Not because they wished to harm others, but because they survived everything the universe threw at them. But why would humans answer a plea from a small world like Leora? Sereth stepped forward and asked the technician, "Is this real?" "Yes," the technician whispered. "The signal is strong and local to our galaxy. They must already be on their way." The message came again. "We received your distress call. We are coming. Stay strong." The words echoed through the room, through the building, and soon through the city as the message was shared across speakers and screens. People stopped in the streets. Children stared at glowing displays. Adults covered their mouths in disbelief. Some cried. Some laughed. Many simply stood still, as if their bodies couldn't understand the feeling rising inside them. Hope. It had been missing for so long that many had forgotten what it felt like. The next morning, the sky above Leora changed. Something massive appeared above the clouds. For a moment, some citizens panicked, thinking it was another Karos fleet, but the ships were bright in color, smooth in design, and carrying a symbol no Leoran had seen before, except in pictures from distant databases. Human ships. The fleet slowly entered orbit. Leora had never seen anything so large or powerful. Their engines glowed gently, not violently. They moved with purpose, not aggression, and they positioned themselves like guardians, ready to defend a world that did not belong to them. Sereth watched from the council tower's balcony as the first shuttle descended to the ground. Council members stood with him, nervous and unsure. Soldiers who had never fought real battles stood nearby, gripping simple weapons. The shuttle landed in the open courtyard near the tower. Its ramp lowered. A gentle hiss of air followed, and then the humans stepped out. The first was a woman with steady eyes and short dark hair. She wore simple gear that looked both practical and strong. Beside her was a tall man with broad shoulders and calm posture. Behind them came two more humans, walking with quiet confidence. The woman spoke first. "I am Captain Laura King. We are here to help." Her words were simple, but they carried a weight that settled into every Leoran heart. Sereth stepped forward. "I am Sereth of Leora. We are grateful and surprised." Laura gave a small smile. "You sent a plea for help. Someone needed to answer." Sereth studied her face. She did not look like a monster. She did not look like a conqueror. She looked like a tired traveler who had seen too many worlds in trouble and refused to ignore another one. The humans introduced themselves. The tall man was Engineer Caleb Brooks. The woman with calm hands was Medic Nina Flores. The man with sharp eyes who stood behind them was Aaron Cole, a strategist. Their names sounded simple. Their voices were gentle. Their presence was strong. The council invited them inside to show them maps and reports. The humans listened carefully, asked questions, and took notes. They were calm even when hearing about destruction, death, and danger. But Sereth noticed that their eyes sharpened every time the word Karos was mentioned. When the meeting ended, Laura looked at the maps one last time and spoke quietly. "We can help you defend your world." Sereth almost collapsed from relief, but he steadied himself. "Why us?" he asked. "Why come so far for a world you do not know?" Laura looked around the room, meeting every pair of Leoran eyes. "Because you asked. And because no one deserves to fall alone." These words, so simple, carried more power than any ship or weapon. Outside the tower, word spread quickly that humanity had arrived. Leorans gathered near the shuttle, watching the humans with mixed feelings. Some were scared. Some were curious. Some simply wanted to be near the ones who brought hope. A small Leoran child, no older than 6 cycles, walked up to Nina Flores. The child held a broken toy in their hands. Its wings snapped off. Nina knelt down, smiled gently, and fixed the toy using a small tool from her pocket. The child's face lit up, and they ran back to their parents, laughing for the first time in weeks. Aaron Cole spent time walking through damaged buildings, studying the structures, and taking notes on his device. He was quiet, focused, always thinking. Leoran workers watched him with interest, wondering what plans he was forming. Caleb Brooks helped repair one of the energy relay towers. He moved with the confidence of someone who trusted his hands and mind without fear. Leoran engineers followed him, eager to learn. Wherever the humans walked, people felt safer not because they were perfect, but because they stood like a shield against the storm. That night, the sky glowed with fires from distant battles. The Karos were still advancing. The Leorans knew that danger had not vanished. But for the first time, they also knew they were not alone. Sereth sat on the balcony, watching the human ships in the sky. They looked like stars that had come to rest near the planet. Shining with quiet strength, the galaxy had ignored Leora's pleas, but humanity had heard, and they had answered. In that moment, Sereth finally believed that tomorrow might hold something other than despair. It might hold survival. It might hold a fight. It might hold hope. And hope, he understood now, was the one thing the Karos had never expected Leora to find. The next morning, the humans began their work. The Leorans watched them carefully, unsure of what to expect. Some were skeptical, believing that humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable. Others had hope, but it was fragile, like a small candle flame in a storm. Captain Laura King moved calmly through the council chambers, her eyes scanning the maps of the planet, the reports of attacks, and the lists of survivors. She spoke softly but firmly, giving orders that made sense. We need to know the strongest points of their attack. Where do they usually strike first? Which cities are most vulnerable? Elder Sereth answered, pointing at a series of marks on the map. The Karos seem to focus on major cities first, then smaller towns. They move quickly, destroying everything in their path. Our defenses are weak. Most of our weapons are outdated or broken, Laura nodded. Then we build strong points, not weapons. Shields, barriers, traps. And we train your people to use them. The humans did not waste time. Caleb Brooks, the engineer, began inspecting the main energy relay tower. It had been damaged during the first attack. Sparks flew as he worked with his tools, adjusting circuits and reassembling machinery in ways the Leorans had never imagined. Leoran engineers followed him closely, watching his every move. Caleb explained each step carefully, teaching them how to rebuild, repair, and strengthen. Meanwhile, medic Nina Flores moved among the frightened citizens. She treated the wounded, reassured the scared, and helped organize small hospitals. Children clung to her hands, adults asked for guidance, and she gave both with quiet patience. She did not rush. She did not panic. Even in the midst of chaos, she remained calm. Aaron Cole, the strategist, walked through the ruined streets, studying the Karos' movements. He observed patterns, noting where they were strongest and where they were weakest. He spoke to the council, not as a guest, but as a teacher. Your defenses are scattered. You are strong in some areas, weak in others. If we combine your knowledge with our methods, we can make a line they cannot break. The Leorans were surprised by the humans' patience and care. They had expected monsters, war machines, or chaos. Instead, the humans were precise, focused, and strangely kind. As days passed, humans and Leorans worked side by side. They built barriers, repaired walls, and set up energy shields. They trained civilians in the use of simple weapons, taught them how to move quietly, how to hide, and when to fight. It was exhausting work, but the Leorans began to feel strong for the first time in weeks. One afternoon, Sereth watched the humans from the balcony. The sun was low in the sky, painting the buildings orange and gold. Caleb was teaching a group of young Leorans how to assemble simple defenses, explaining each step carefully. Nina was tending to a child who had been injured while collecting water. Aaron was walking with a group of soldiers, pointing out where the Karos might strike next. And Laura stood in the center, calm, watching everything, making sure every move was coordinated. Sereth thought about the stories he had heard of humans. They were said to survive anywhere, to endure anything, to fight against impossible odds. He had always thought those were exaggerations. Now, he realized they were true. Humans had something the galaxy rarely saw: determination, courage, and an unwavering sense of responsibility. That night, a message arrived from orbit. It was brief, but the words were clear. Karos fleet detected. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Prepare defenses. The council felt fear again, but it was different now. This time, they did not feel hopeless. This time, they had humans with them. Laura gathered the council and key Leoran leaders. The Karos will come in force, she said. We will not lie to you. This fight will be hard. Some may fall, but if we work together, we will survive. Aylin, the young council member, shook slightly. How can we fight them? Their numbers, their weapons. Laura interrupted gently. We fight smart, not alone. You know your land. You know the people. We bring experience. We bring tactics. Together, we are stronger than they expect. The Leorans began to follow the humans' instructions carefully. They worked in small teams, preparing traps, hiding civilians, and reinforcing walls. Humans moved among them constantly, teaching, guiding, and sometimes doing the work themselves to show it could be done. As the Karos approached, the humans explained what would happen. When they arrive, Laura said, you must stay calm. Do not run. Do not panic. Move to safe points we have prepared. We will be with you. Trust the plan. The Karos fleet arrived in the predicted time. The first ships appeared on the horizon as dark silhouettes against the bright sky. Explosions rocked distant cities. But the humans remained calm. Caleb and his team adjusted shields. Nina and other medics prepared field hospitals. Aaron coordinated defenses, and Laura gave orders to ready the troops. The first wave of Karos soldiers landed near the outskirts of the capital. They moved with speed and precision, expecting the Leorans to panic. But they did not. Humans had trained them. They were ready. The humans led the first counterattack. Simple weapons in Leoran hands were guided by Aaron's plans. Caleb's energy barriers protected key streets. Nina treated the wounded quickly, keeping morale high, and Laura herself led small squads into the streets, striking the Karos where they least expected it. The Karos were surprised. They had expected an easy victory. They had thought Leora would fall in hours. Instead, humans and Leorans fought together. The streets were alive with movement, strategy, and determination. Sereth watched from the council tower, amazed. He saw humans running into the heart of danger, facing superior forces without fear. He saw Leorans holding their ground. Inspired by the humans' courage, he had never seen anything like it. During a brief pause in the fighting, Laura spoke to Sereth. Do not underestimate your people. They are capable of more than they think. We are only here to guide them. Sereth nodded, understanding the truth in her words. The humans did not fight alone. They gave hope, they taught skill, and they showed strength. Leorans fought not because they had weapons, but because they had courage and someone to believe in. As the sun set, the battle continued. Karos ships fired from orbit, trying to break human and Leoran lines. Humans adjusted shields, repaired damaged defenses, and directed Leoran volunteers to safety. Each human seemed to be in many places at once, always helping, always guiding, always protecting. Nina moved tirelessly among the wounded. She did not sleep, did not complain. She treated the injured with care and comforted those who had lost friends or family. Children clung to her hands, knowing that she would not let anything happen to them. Caleb worked on repairing energy conduits under fire. Sparks flew around him, and debris fell from the damaged buildings. But he kept working, moving calmly and efficiently. Leoran engineers copied his movements, learning how to repair and defend at the same time. Aaron moved through the battlefield with careful observation. He noted where the Karos were strongest, where they were weak, and how the Leorans responded. Every movement was calculated, and every decision made in seconds could save or cost lives. Laura moved like a shadow, appearing where needed most. Her presence inspired both humans and Leorans. Soldiers followed her silently, knowing she would guide them to safety and victory. By nightfall, the first wave of Kairos troops had been pushed back. Leorans cheered, tears on their faces. Humans quietly reorganized the defenses and prepared for the next attack. There was no celebration, only steady preparation. They knew the Kairos would return stronger. Sareth walked among the streets, seeing the mix of relief and exhaustion. He saw humans helping citizens, rebuilding walls, and training more volunteers. He realized that hope was no longer fragile. It was strong. It could grow, and it could survive even in the darkest moments. That night, as the sky darkened and the first stars appeared, Sareth looked up at the human ships in orbit. They shone like quiet guardians above the planet. He understood now that humanity's strength was not in weapons or numbers alone. It was in their willingness to fight for others, to protect, to teach, and to endure. The Kairos were still coming. Their fleet was large, their weapons powerful. But the humans had shown Leorans something they had forgotten. They had shown them courage, hope, and the power of working together. And as Sareth finally returned to the council tower, he whispered to himself, "Perhaps we will survive this. Perhaps the galaxy is not as cruel as we believed. Perhaps we are not alone." The night passed with quiet activity. Humans and Leorans worked together, repairing, reinforcing, and preparing. The Kairos would return, and the battle was far from over. But the first signs of victory had been seen, and for the first time in generations, the Leorans believed they could fight back, and the humans remained calm, patient, and determined, like a storm that had come to protect, not destroy. The next day, the Kairos returned. Their fleet was larger than the first, and their soldiers were better prepared. They came with a wave of fire and destruction, confident that Leora would fall easily. But they had underestimated humans and the courage of Leorans. From the council tower, Sareth could see the dark shapes of the Kairos ships against the bright morning sky. Smoke rose from damaged towns, but the streets were not empty. Civilians moved quickly to safe zones, guided by Leorans trained by humans. Soldiers held their positions, and humans moved among them, giving orders, protecting, and fighting. Captain Laura King watched from the central command post. Her eyes were calm and sharp. She had studied the Kairos for hours, analyzing their patterns, learning their weaknesses. Beside her, Caleb Brooks monitored energy shields and repaired any damage instantly. Nina Flores checked field hospitals, making sure every wounded person had care. Aaron Cole moved between squads, directing troops and civilians with precise commands. The first attack hit the outer walls. Kairos soldiers leapt from their ships, weapons blazing. The humans had prepared traps and barriers, and many Kairos fell immediately. Leoran volunteers fired from behind reinforced walls, surprising the enemy. Laura ran with a small team into the streets where the fighting was heaviest. She moved quickly, giving orders and helping any Leorans in danger. When a group of Kairos advanced on a civilian shelter, Laura and a squad of soldiers held the line until the defenders could evacuate everyone safely. Caleb worked on repairing a broken energy shield under fire. Sparks flew around him, and chunks of debris fell from damaged buildings, but he moved calmly and carefully. Leoran engineers followed his example, learning not just how to repair equipment, but how to remain calm under extreme pressure. Nina moved among the wounded, her hands steady even when the injured screamed in pain. She treated people of all ages, speaking softly, encouraging them to hold on. Children clung to her, and she smiled, knowing she could not save everyone. But she could save enough to give hope. Aaron Cole was everywhere at once. He directed soldiers to weak points, moved civilians to safety, and called in support where needed. His mind seemed to see the battlefield in layers, predicting Kairos movements before they happened. Sareth watched from the tower, amazed at how the humans fought. They were not invincible, but they were fearless, careful, and clever. They did not waste energy, did not panic, and always helped others. He had never seen anything like it. The Karos were forced to retreat in small groups, only to regroup and attack again. Each wave was met with resistance. The humans had taught the Leorans to work together, to trust each other, and to believe that survival was possible. The streets became a maze of traps, barricades, and clever defenses. Karos soldiers fell into pits, got trapped behind energy barriers, and were outmaneuvered at every turn. By midday, a large Karos ship descended near the city center. Its weapons fired on the buildings, causing explosions and panic. Laura called for her team to move quickly. "Cover civilians first. Then we deal with the ship," she said calmly. A squad of humans ran to protect civilians, while others worked on a device Caleb had built to disrupt the ship's systems. Sparks and beams of light filled the area as the device activated. Slowly, the ship's weapons stopped firing. It wobbled in the air, then crashed outside the city, defeated. The Leorans cheered, but Laura reminded them that the battle was far from over. The Karos still had many ships, many soldiers, and they would not stop until the planet was theirs. That evening, as the sky turned orange and pink, a brief calm settled over the city. Humans and Leorans worked together to rebuild walls, treat the wounded, and prepare for the next wave. Sereth walked among the people, noticing the hope returning to their eyes. He saw children playing cautiously among the ruins, knowing they were safe for now. He saw civilians helping each other, moving supplies, and learning how to defend themselves. He saw humans standing quietly, always ready, always watching, always guiding. That night, Laura gathered her team. "Tomorrow, the Karos will attack with everything they have," she said. "We need to be ready. Remember your training. Remember your courage. Remember why we fight, not for ourselves, but for those who cannot fight alone." Nina nodded. "We will be ready." Caleb adjusted his tools and devices. "Everything is prepared. Shields, barriers, and repairs are ready." Aaron checked maps and troop positions. "We can hold them. We will hold them." When dawn arrived, the final attack began. The Karos came with a massive fleet, firing from orbit and sending thousands of soldiers onto the planet. The ground shook, buildings collapsed, and explosions lit the sky. But the humans and Leorans were ready. The first lines of defense held. Energy shields absorbed the worst attacks. Barricades slowed the enemy. Humans led squads into key positions, giving instructions, helping the injured, and striking where the Karos least expected. Sereth moved through the city, helping where he could. He watched civilians stay calm, fighting side by side with trained soldiers and humans. He saw humans carrying wounded across dangerous areas, never hesitating, never giving up. The Karos realized that Leora was no longer an easy target. Each wave of soldiers fell back, surprised by the cooperation and courage of the defenders. Humans and Leorans worked together seamlessly, defending the streets, buildings, and civilians. Laura led a small team into the heart of the enemy's attack. She moved quickly, targeting commanders and disabling weapons. Her squad followed her without hesitation. They fought hard, careful not to waste energy, striking precisely and retreating before the Karos could recover. Caleb worked tirelessly to maintain power to the shields. Sparks flew, alarms rang, but he did not stop. Every shield that stayed up saved lives. Every repaired generator kept the defenders strong. Nina moved through the field hospitals, treating the wounded quickly and effectively. She encouraged them to survive, to keep fighting, and to trust the humans beside them. Aaron directed soldiers and volunteers, predicting enemy movements and sending them to the right place at the right time. His mind worked faster than any human or Leoran had ever seen. By the afternoon, the battle was turning in favor of the defenders. The Karos were exhausted, surprised by the strength and strategy of Leorans and humans together. The streets, once filled with panic, were now filled with coordinated resistance. The humans had shown the Leorans how to fight, and the Leorans had followed with courage and determination. The final wave of Karos soldiers approached the city's central plaza. Laura and her team met them head-on. Explosions shook the ground. But humans and Leorans held their positions. They fought with precision, courage, and determination. The Karos could not break their lines. Caleb activated a device to disable the Karos's remaining vehicles. Sparks and beams of energy spread across the plaza, disabling their machines. Aaron directed Leorans to surround the enemy, cutting off escape routes. Nina treated the wounded quickly, keeping the morale of the defenders high. Sereth stood at the council tower, watching the final moments of the battle. The humans had changed everything. They had taken a hopeless situation and turned it into a fight for survival. The Karos were finally retreating, defeated and surprised by the strength of those they thought were weak. When the last Karos ship left the sky, the city was quiet, except for the sounds of humans and Leorans helping each other. Buildings were damaged, but people were alive. Civilians came out of hiding, cheering and crying with relief. Soldiers and volunteers embraced each other. The humans quietly organized recovery and repair efforts. Laura met Sereth in the council chamber. "It is done," she said quietly. "The Karos are gone." "And?" Sereth looked at her, amazed. "Why did you help us? You came from so far away, into danger, for a world you did not know." Laura smiled gently. "Because you asked. Because someone had to answer. Because we do not watch worlds fall alone." The council members and citizens gathered to thank the humans. Children ran to them, hugging and laughing. Adults thanked them, some in tears. The humans did not stay for long. They had repaired, fought, and taught, and now their mission was complete. Before leaving, Laura addressed the Leorans. "We will leave now, but you are not alone. You have the skills, the courage, and the knowledge to protect yourselves. And if you ever need help again, call." Humanity listens. The fleet rose into the sky. Ships glowed and then disappeared into the distance. Leorans watched silently, feeling both awe and gratitude. Sereth walked through the city, seeing the people returning to their lives. Buildings could be repaired. Streets could be rebuilt. Children could play again. And for the first time, he realized something true. The galaxy had ignored their cries before, but humans had answered. The Leorans would survive because someone believed in them. Someone fought for them. Someone taught them courage. They had learned that survival was not only about weapons, power, or numbers. It was about hope, unity, and determination. And as night fell over Leora, Sereth looked at the stars, imagining the humans traveling back across the galaxy. He whispered softly, "We sent a plea to the galaxy." Only humanity answered. And that answer changed everything. For the first time in generations, Leora knew that they were not alone, and that hope could shine, even in the darkest night.